Hi, Steve here. Thank you for joining me on the Panoramic Travels YouTube channel, where we discuss our travels, whether they be by RV, river or ocean cruising, or independent travel. This video covers our 5th major RV trip since we picked up our Panoramic RV in September 2022. Some of the highlights include the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, 4 national parks, 2 state parks, visiting friends and relatives, and a very unexpected and emotional experience toward the end of the trip, so stick around for that. I hope you enjoy the video. Give it a like if you do. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. If not, please consider subscribing and clicking the notify button so you'll know when new Panoramic Travels videos come out. Okay, let's make sure we're properly packed before we head out. We've got food, clothes, reading material, and the grizzly back scratcher. The propane and fresh tanks are full and the gray and black tanks are empty or nearly empty. I think we're ready to go. And we are on the road. Our first stop is to visit our friends Kim and Don in Terre, Haute, Indiana. We met Kim and Don 4 years ago on the Viking Grand European River Cruise. Since then, we've been on another Viking River Cruise and a Viking Ocean Cruise with them and have met up in Michigan and Indiana numerous times. They're great hosts. We had some excellent meals, played games, went for walks, and visited the Newport Hill Climb. Even though Kim and Don have a Terre Haute address, they live in a fairly rural area and have this beautiful wetlands area to enjoy nature and to take their dogs for walks. The Newport Hill Climb is a real slice of Americana. Kim and Don have known about the hill climb for years but had never attended it. Sometimes it takes out-of-town guests to finally get you to visit something so close to home. The Newport Hill Climb is an annual festival that takes place the first Sunday of October. It started in 1909 but ended abruptly in 1915. It was revived by the Newport Lions Club in 1968 and has been held every year since, except for 2020 due to COVID. The main event is a series of timed runs in which cars, trucks, and motorcycles from the steam, brass, vintage, antique, and classic car eras ascend the town's steep 1,800-foot-long Main Street hill. The festival is the 3rd largest auto event in Indiana after the Indy 500 and the Brick 400. The population of Newport goes from around 500 to over 100,000 for the hill climb weekend. I've always wanted to try a fried Oreo. Not bad.
47 DeSoto. We had 262 cars today. 262. Now, 1954, Nash and Hudson merged to make the American Motor Company. And then in 1955, they made 2,000 of these things and gave them to the Hudson dealership.
The next stop is St. Louis, Missouri, the home of the Gateway Arch since its completion in 1965. The Missouri Botanical Garden is also known as Shaw's Garden for founder and philanthropist Henry Shaw, who donated the land. Its herbarium, with more than 6.6 million specimens, is the 2nd largest in North America, behind that of the New York Botanical Garden. Founded in 1859, the Missouri Botanical Garden is one of the oldest botanical institutions in the United States and a National Historic Landmark. It is also listed in the National Register of Historic Places. We do enjoy strolling through botanical gardens, but we are primarily here to see the Chihuly in the Garden 2023 exhibit. If you don't know, Dale Chihuly is an American glass blower and possibly the most famous in the world. Even if you aren't familiar with him, you are probably familiar with some of his work. It can be found in museums, hotels, casinos, gardens, and numerous exhibitions around the world. The Gateway Arch is a 630-foot tall monument clad in stainless steel. It's the world's tallest arch and Missouri's tallest accessible building. Built as a monument to the westward expansion of the United States, the arch is a National Historic Landmark in Gateway Arch National Park and has become an internationally recognized symbol of St. Louis, as well as a popular tourist destination. I was at the Gateway Arch in 1968, the year after it opened to the public. I didn't remember it having a huge underground museum. The museum traces the story of Native Americans, explorers, and pioneers and features 6 themed exhibit areas. We're boondocking in Colby, Kansas at a Bass Pro Shop parking lot tonight. This is our first big travel day, 10 hours and 620 miles. Our next official destination is Evergreen, Colorado, but that's too far to drive in one day. Kansas has a lot of wind turbines, which makes sense since we experienced a lot of wind and wind gusts. The Ram ProMaster got buffeted so badly that the cruise control actually disengaged 4 times. Then we drove right into a major downpour before reaching our destination for the night. We're on our way to visit our friends Ross and Nancy. Ross is Kim's brother. We met Ross and Nancy on our Viking South American Ocean cruise earlier this year.
One corner, fold it over, pick up the other corner. And the trick is not to make it a burrito, right? And then I pick up the next set, and then I start rolling it over like this. Okay. There's some elasticity here, so you can do that. And then roll it under, get it to stick to the other piece.
So how is that not burrito?
Well, it is, but it's
you
want
don't
it
want
to be
a giant
small,
one.
not
Gotcha.
a,
So that's what you're looking for. Something
That's
like
beautiful.
that.
Janet and I wanted to check out the area and see if we could find any elk. The Georgetown Loop Railroad is a narrow-gauge United States heritage railroad and runs between the former mining towns of Georgetown and Silver Plume in a narrow canyon of Clear Creek in the Rocky Mountains west of Denver. The route ascends an elevation of 640 feet through mountainous terrain along with trestles, cuts, fills, and a grand loop. The Georgetown Loop Railroad was one of Colorado's first visitor attractions. It was completed in 1884 and was considered an engineering marvel for its time. Engineers designed a route that included horseshoe curves, grades of up to 4%, and 4 bridges across Clear Creek, including the massive Devil's Gate High Bridge. The line was dismantled in 1939, but was restored in the 1980s to operate during summer months as a tourist railroad, carrying passengers using historic narrow-gauge steam locomotives. Time for lunch at Scooter's Smokehouse, a small restaurant with very good food and the most inclusive bathroom I've ever seen. The Arapahoe National Forest is a wildlife refuge that consists of 723,744 acres and includes the highest point along the Continental Divide at 14,278 feet. It was established in 1908 by President Theodore Roosevelt and named for the Arapahoe tribe of Native Americans which previously inhabited the Colorado Eastern Plains.
It's a healthy meal.
Love that.
Yeah. And I would top it with some of the walnuts.
We're leaving Ross and Nancy's and heading to Albuquerque, New Mexico today. Wow, 423 miles, or 681 kilometers, on I-25 South. We'll be arriving at the Star Brothers Harvest Host soon. We parked next to a 1993 Airstream camper van. Yes, a 30-year-old RV. We met the owners, Gary and Sybil, from Connecticut. We gave each other tours of our RVs. They had a wooden panel with pins commemorating their travels. That has inspired me to take on a project that will be the subject of a future video. Okay, this is a big day. We have known of the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta for decades, never really thinking we would be experiencing it firsthand one day. Well, today is that day. It takes place on the 365-acre Fiesta field. Every balloonist has their own section on the field to set up and launch. The attendees do not just sit on the periphery. We were able to walk all over the field and were able to watch balloonists set up their balloons.
Breaking wind.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
To the 51st Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. This is an international event with guests online and in person from around the world and pilots from nearly 20 countries. And 17 teams from 9 countries participating in the North-Atlantic Coupe Aeronautique.
The Fiesta began in 1972 with only 13 balloons. Now with this 51st event, there are more than 550 balloons. This is amazing. About a dozen balloons go up before dawn because they really light up against the dark sky and so that they can monitor the weather and wind conditions.
Big eagle on it. That's awesome.
With a record 968,000 visitors, traffic was pretty bad. Because of this, we left the RV at the Harvest Toast site and took Ubers and Lyfts for the morning and evening sessions. In retrospect, we would highly recommend planning in advance and reserving a campsite on the park grounds, which include access to shuttle buses. RV and camping reservations will open on January 10th, 2024 for the October 2024 Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. Since the Harvest Host was about 3 miles from the park, bikes or e-bikes would have been another good option. If you do choose the Harvest Host option, we would highly recommend the Star Brothers because of its location and great food. The number one rule of balloon etiquette is that the lower balloon has the right of way. This is because they can't see who or what is above them.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and to our viewers around the world on Balloon Fiesta Live here at the 51st Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, powered by ExxonMobil. It's Gordon Bennett night, and the excitement is building already as the balloons are on site inflating. Looks like we're all go for the 66 Gordon Bennett.
We're going to inflate our hot air balloons here, and we're going to do our twilight lightning drop, okay? And so we'll do all birds and flicker birds or twinkle birds, and we're just going to coordinate that and have a whole lot of fun with lighting up the field with all of our hot air balloons.
This is the 66th annual Gordon Bennett Race. The race is a long-distance gas balloon championship and is the oldest event in aviation. It's a story full of adventure, skill, courage, survival, and luck. The goal is simple, to fly the furthest non-stop distance from the launch site. The international competition was initiated by adventurer and newspaper tycoon James Gordon Bennett Jr. in 1906 when 16 balloons launched from Paris, France. 17 hydrogen-filled balloons competed this year. Since it takes me a while to edit this video, I can share with you that this year the winning team was from France. The balloon went a distance of 1,653 miles and landed in Jacksonville, North Carolina. The flight took 3 days, 13 hours, and 45 minutes. I can also share with you that 2 balloon pilots representing Poland are recovering from burns and broken bones after their balloon hit a high-voltage power line and exploded during their descent in Texas. Next year, the race will launch in Munster, Germany. As we make our way to Mesa Verde, let me ask you a question. Do you enjoy visiting national parks? If you do, this is the best tip I can share with you. Get the Guide Along app. The app is free, but there are in-app purchases for various national parks or United States regions. They aren't cheap, but I will tell you they are worth every penny. The app knows your GPS location and provides information based on your location. It's like having your own personal guide in the car with you. The narrator, who I call Bob, offers a wealth of information including geological, historical, cultural, and even where to find bathrooms, gas stations, and where to park. You'll be getting a sample of his narration while we tour 3 national parks on this trip, starting with Mesa Verde, because Bob has a better speaking voice than I do, and he's smarter than me.
I'm sure you've already noticed that big chunk of sedimentary rock sitting as a peak above the treed slopes. That is Point Lookout. And the geologists were very unoriginal when they named this layer. They called it Point Lookout Sandstone. The turnoff for the Moorfield Campground is coming up on our right. This is our only chance to get gas in the park. So if you need it, let's head on in. There's also a nice camp store and cafe here in case you're in need of any last-minute lunch supplies. In just a minute or so, we'll reach the unmissable Montezuma Valley Overlook, and I highly recommend pulling off here. It offers one of the best views of Montezuma Valley down below. Plus, you should be able to see Sleeping Ute Mountain off in the distance. My opinion, we definitely should make a stop at the Overlook and take in the view. We're coming up on the turn for the Park Point Overlook. Now, there is a lot to see and do here, so it is definitely worth the stop. This is the highest point you can get to on the main park road. From the parking area, there's a short paved trail that leads to an amazing overlook and fire lookout. Now, the trail is quite steep at the beginning, but it levels out pretty quickly. Just take your time. The view is well worth the effort to get there. On a clear day, you can see all 4 corners states, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado from here. Now, I mentioned this is a great point for spotting fires. You've already seen enough fire scars since we've been in the park to know that fires are common in this area. Having a bird's eye view of the landscape up here helps rangers identify and locate fires while they're still small and before they grow out of control. Well, it looks like we're about to pass through the tunnel again. After we exit the tunnel, we'll soon reach the left-hand turn for Moorfield Campground. This gorgeous little campground is mainly for tents and campers, but it does have a handful of full RV hookups. There's also showers, laundry, gas, and both a grocery store and a restaurant available during the busiest part of the season from May through mid-October. It's a pretty great location if you're lucky enough to score a site.
Cell service was very spotty or non-existent in some areas. I temporarily forgot the Ram ProMaster's Sirius XM radio would still work. Also, streaming shows in the evening was sometimes not an option. When we do stream shows, we just use one of our iPhones as a hotspot. Thankfully, we have unlimited data with our AT&T plan. Here's a note for future trips. Download some content before we leave. A lack of cell service also forced us to use the Ram ProMaster's onboard navigation for the first time. We're actually impressed with how good it is. We'll still opt for Apple CarPlay for navigation when cell service is available. Another note for future trips. Some Maps apps like Apple Maps and Google Maps allow for the downloading of maps so they can be used offline. The Four Corners Monument marks the point where the states of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah meet. It's the only point in the United States shared by 4 states. The monument also marks the boundary between 2 semi-autonomous Native American governments, the Navajo Nation, which maintains the monument as a tourist attraction, and the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe Reservation.
Safe like repair, safe like replace.
Wilson Arch is a natural sandstone arch just off U.S. Route 191, 24 miles south of Moab. It has a span of 91 feet and height of 46 feet. It was named after Joe Wilson, a local pioneer who had a cabin nearby in Dry Valley. We've been boondocking up to this point. Even though we're at a campsite with an electric hookup, we never used it. We didn't feel the need to. The batteries get charged from the solar panels and the fact that we're driving every day.
Here we go. We are just about to enter Arches National Park. Our first stop will be at the gate here, so let's have everything ready. If we have lots of time, it'll take about 4.5 hours to drive to the end and back, allowing about 10 minutes at each of the best stops. If we have less than 2 hours, we have time to go down as far as the window section of the park. But I highly recommend we invest an extra 90 minutes so we can see the Delicate Arch, the most famous formation in the park. In case you don't have quite enough, drinking water is available at the visitor center. Our first real stop is coming up here on our left. We're coming up to Park Avenue. Early visitors thought that the shape of the fins of rock there resembled the New York skyline. It's a majestic view and really worth getting out of the car for. We'll also get to see some other formations like Queen Nefertiti on the left if we venture a little into the canyon. This is a really nice walk and one of the visitors' favorites. It's only a 1-mile hike one way. We may just see some climbers here by the Tower of Babel on our right. All the rock walls and neat features that are found in the park make it a true novelty for climbers. Another thing you may have noticed is the beautiful dark streaks on the rock. The staining is varnish, and it's mostly made of clay. It's a combination of chemical and bacterial reactions that bind the varnish to the rock. The native Indians used the varnish for their petroglyphs, and we'll have some opportunities to look at some petroglyphs later on our tour near Delicate Arch. Our next attraction coming up is Balanced Rock. The boulder is the size of 3 school buses and sits on a narrow stand. It's a great example of what a hoodoo formation is. Hoodoos are rock spires composed of rock layers that erode at different rates. The top rock is made of hard sandstone, and it sits on softer, muddy sandstone. So the bottom erodes faster than the top, and for a period of its life, it becomes a hoodoo. This is it. Let's find a place to park and go through the windows. The Windows Loop Trail circles north and south Windows Arches with an easy access to Turret Arch. It's only a half-mile loop on easy trails. So, it is time to leave the car, take pictures, and go and experience this amazing natural museum up close. We're approaching another very popular area in the park, Delicate Arch and Wolf Ranch. Delicate Arch is one of the natural wonders of the park and can be viewed up close by taking a strenuous 3-mile round-trip hike. If we're physically able, we do not want to miss this. If the hike sounds a little too difficult for us, we can drive further to access a viewpoint. Right after the pullout, we'll make a right turn for Delicate Arch and Wolf Ranch.
Stay along the right. Right around the corner. Okay, that was worth it. You made it.
This is the Fiery Furnace Overlook. Turn right here for the Fiery Furnace. There's a short, enjoyable walk to the viewpoint that's accessible to everyone. You don't need to join the guided hike to go to the viewpoint. Well, my friends, we've reached the end of the road. If you want to explore further into the Arches National Park, you'll have to do it on foot. Although it's the end of the road, there is actually many things to see here too. And a lot of the most famous park arches are found here. Landscape Arch is the largest arch on the planet, beating out Zion National Park's Kolob Arch by only 3 feet. Pieces of landscape arch have broken off during the past few years. Some chunks the size of cars. Landscape arch is an awesome sight. The amazing width of stone arch, held in place by such a delicate, slender center, is really something to see. This is our final descent as we leave Arches National Park. I hope you enjoyed the time that you spent in the park and that it created awesome memories for years to come. Arches is one of the many parks in the National Park Service. Parks were created to protect the scenery, natural and historic objects, and the wildlife, so we can enjoy them today and also in the future. And if you'd like more info about geology, human history, natural history, or American Indian culture in and around Arches National Park, make sure to stop at the Visitor Center on our way out.
I think it's time to fill the fresh tank.
All right, my friends, we are coming up to our first stop. After the next hairpin turn, we'll see a turnoff to the right and parking and a viewpoint. From here, we'll see the Merrimack and Monitor. These were two steam-powered warships of the Civil War. The shape of the buttes really resembles the two ships. Merrimack, the Confederate warship, is on the left, and the Monitor is on the right. We're approaching the entrance booth for the park, and we're required to have a park pass if we want to do some sightseeing. I'd hold off on asking the booth attendant too many questions. The visitor center is the best place for that, and the staff will have more time to help you, and with no lineups of cars impatiently waiting behind us. Canyonlands National Park is huge, covering 337,598 acres of land. Two rivers, the Green and the Colorado, cross the park and divide it into 4 districts. They are Island in the Sky, the Needles, the Maze, and the rivers themselves. For this tour today, we'll only explore the district of Island in the Sky. I know that when you look on the map, they're all pretty close to each other, but there are no roads within the park that link the different districts together. Traveling between them can take 2 to 6 hours by car. For example, from here to the entrance to the Needles district requires a drive of more than 100 miles. So today, our tour of Canyonlands is going to be all about Island in the Sky. We'll soon get to the trailhead to Mesa Arch, the most famous place in the entire park. And if we only have time and energy for one hike, well, this is the one we should do. If we get there while I'm still talking, please turn in and find a parking spot. The loop is only a half mile, and it's really quite flat. As you walk along the trail, we'll experience the widespread ecosystem of the pinyon juniper woodland. Mesa Arch is perched at the top of a cliff at the edge of the mesa. We'll get breathtaking views of the canyons and the mountains, all nicely framed by the arch. This is an absolute favorite for photographers, and taking a shot of the sunrise through the arch is classic. Isn't that an amazing view from Mesa Arch? I never get tired of it. Right now, we need to make a choice. Going straight will take us to Grandview Point, and turning right to Upheaval Dome. If we don't have time for both, I suggest that we go to Grandview Point. Okay, looks like we're on our way to Grandview Point. Like the name suggests, we'll get a grand view from there. But let's not rush too much, as there are some amazing things to see along the way. Once we reach Grand View Point, we'll be at one of the best places in the world to see a geological history timeline of more than 150 million years on display. I have another overlook for us to pull into. If we're getting hungry and we brought a picnic with us, White Rim Overlook is a great place to stop and have some lunch or a snack. If you like the view, there's a 1.25 mile round trip trail that's worth checking out for a different perspective. But make sure to get on the White Rim Overlook Trail and not the Gooseberry Trail. We've done it. We've arrived at Grand View Point, and I am sure you're going to love it here. Park the car and let's soak up this magnificent view. The history of this part of the planet lies in front of us. If you feel like you want to do more than just the viewpoint, there's a fairly easy trail about 2 miles round trip that will take you along the edges of the mesa for some more stunning views. This is it, my friends. Let's get out of the car and take it all in. And don't forget to bring your camera and take some pictures, like you needed me to remind you of that.
Dead Horse State Park features a dramatic overlook of the Colorado River, along with a visitor center, a campground, and a 9-mile loop hiking trail. This is our last evening at the Moab KOA. It was 69 degrees Fahrenheit in the RV when we went to bed. It was in the low 40s outside overnight. In the morning it was 63 degrees Fahrenheit in the Panoramic. The inside temperature only dropped 6 degrees Fahrenheit and we never turned on the heat. The Panoramic RV is very well insulated. So here's something we've never seen before. When we first drove up on it, we thought there was an accident. But apparently this is how cattle ranchers move their herd from one pasture to another. We found it to be very entertaining. Antelope Island is the largest of 10 islands located within the Great Salt Lake, although it becomes a peninsula as it is now, when the lake is at extremely low levels. The Great Salt Lake is the largest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere and is the 8th largest terminal lake in the world. Karen is Janet's sister. Karen and Ken are arriving at Antelope Island State Park with their 5 pit bulls. It's a long story. We did plug in here because we wanted to use electricity to heat the RV overnight, not propane. So why are we in Salt Lake City? It's because Ken started making knives about a year ago and he wants to attend the Blade Show West. Ken wants to get design ideas and buy raw materials for future knives. This state park is spacious, scenic, and unique with all the bison, but it has one major drawback. We have never encountered so many mosquitoes. Maybe it's not an issue during other parts of the year, but they were so thick that it forced us to spend most of our time in the RV or travel trailer. This is the morning of the annular eclipse. The good news is that we are in a good location to see a near full eclipse. The bad news is that we're driving to the West Blade Show during the eclipse. I took some video from the moving RV. We also stopped for a few minutes so I could take a time lapse. We bought 2 pair of solar glasses to protect our eyes. I sacrificed one lens to place over the iPhone camera, which explains the orange tint on a few of the videos. Apparently it wasn't necessary as the videos without the solar glasses lens came out fine.
This product's called Juma. I love this. And then for things like this that are going to be wet, greasy, or it's basically perfect. Thanks. Good seeing you.
So they started filling the voids with the resin.
Oh, okay.
So this one here has
Like a resin pour.
resin.
This is the unexpected and emotional part in our trip when we visited the Family Search Center headquarters run by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's the largest genealogy organization in the world. We walked in and each of us had an assistant walk us over to the computers. They helped us set up accounts on the free Family Search website, and then we started seeing how much of our family trees already existed and how to do a little detective work to build it out more. Janet knew nothing about any descendants on her dad's side since he was a stowaway on a ship from Poland to the U.S. at the age of 13. Within a few minutes, Janet was able to see multiple generations that she had never seen before. That's when she had to reach for the Kleenex. Family Search offers personal assistance at more than 5,100 family search centers in 140 countries, but you can also get started from the comfort of your own home at the FamilySearch.org website. As of March 2023, there are over 1.5 billion individuals in the family tree, and the Historical Records database contains over 5.7 billion digital images, including digitized books, digitized microfilm, and other digital records. This was our longest travel day, 11 and a half hours and 663 miles. We didn't really set a destination. We just drove until we thought it was time to stop for the night. We should have stopped sooner since we were still driving after the sun set. Wow, I can't believe we're driving on I-80 East for the next 875 miles. This was another long travel day, 11 hours and 644 miles, but we got an earlier start and we made sure that we found a place to spend the night before the sunset. Any problems we were having with the Ram ProMaster during our first few months of ownership are now long gone. The ProMaster has been problem-free for 11 months now. So 17 days on the road, the total cost of this RV trip was a little under $2,400 US. $1,100 of that, almost half, was for the 317 gallons of gas we bought. We paid anywhere from $2.93 a gallon to $4.30 a gallon, averaging $3.50 a gallon. We drove 4,514 miles, so our overall fuel economy was a little over 14 miles per gallon. I hear people say that they're getting around 16 miles per gallon. I'm not sure why ours is lower, except on this trip we drove through a lot of mountains and some sections were pretty windy. So let's talk about the pano levels. We used propane for cooking, heating the water for showers, and heating the RV on a few cold nights. We started with propane at 100% and finished the trip with 65%. The 440 amp hours of lithium batteries were never an issue. We filled the fresh tank once and then topped it off. We emptied the gray and black tanks once. So what are your thoughts? What questions do you have for us? Again, we're only a little over a year into RVing. What would you have done differently? I'd love to see your comments or any questions you might have about this trip. Thanks for watching.